What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Power Lunch. I am your host, Frederick Douglass Bussey. Today we have an amazing event, amazing guest. I'm super excited to have him with us today. And it's around a topic that many people may find boring or exciting, depending on which side you land on. But when we're talking about money, the more you have of it, the more exciting life can be. And so whether that's your focus or not, we're going to dig into a little bit about how you can learn to be a better investor, to make more of the money that you have, and to make more money on top of that as well. So as I'm getting ready to have my kids start their lunch, I want to welcome you to another edition of Power Lunch. Let's get started. Welcome to the show. Hi, Amy. Thanks for those of you who are live with us on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, in the Facebook group as well, Seven Figure Circle, $1 Million Mastermind. I am horrible at promoting all the different things. Just know that the show is sponsored by the Seven Figure Circle, $1 Million Mastermind Facebook group and by my book. That being said, I am here to welcome our guest for today, who has an amazing first name. I can't think of a better name he could possibly have.
Love that.
And so we're really excited to have him with us here on the show today. I want to tell you a little bit about him before we get going, so you have an idea of who we're talking about. And he is none other than, I lost my notes. Where'd they go?
Hello.
Just completely lost my notes. All right. Well, that didn't help. Here we go. Well, this is live television, so that's what happens when you misplace something on. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, good. So our guest today is none other than Fred Moskowitz. And he's a sought-after speaker, advisor, and trainer on a variety of topics relating to entrepreneurship and investing. He's the author of several books, including 13 Steps to Riches, a New York Times bestseller, and his latest book, The Little Green Book of Note Investing. Fred has positioned himself as an authority in investing in alternative assets and on building wealth using self-directed IRA accounts. He combines a 15-year career devoted to entrepreneurship and investing with a mission to helping people attain a higher level of financial literacy, resulting in the perfect combination of wisdom and experience, providing value to aspiring investors from all walks of life. Please welcome with me none other than Mr. Fred Moskowitz. How are you, Fred?
Hello, Frederick. Great to be here. Thank you.
So we gave a little bit of a rundown, and for those who are financially astute, they may understand everything that I just said. However, when you're talking to someone at a dinner party and they're asking you what you do, how do you introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. The way I introduce myself, I'm known as the alternative investment expert. And what I love teaching about is the whole concept of investing in assets that you can own. And while you own them, they generate income for you. And so this way you get paid while you wait. Right? A lot of people are familiar with investing through their 401k plan at work. Right? Or investing in the stock market and mutual funds and different things. And that is what most people know about, what most people learn about. And that certainly is important to have a place in your portfolio. However, those type of investments, you invest in that, and the whole idea is waiting for appreciation, right? The value of the stock goes up. The value of the mutual fund goes up. And the only way you get paid is when you sell that and you get your money back, but now you don't have the asset any longer. Right. So with alternative investments, when you invest in an asset, it might be in real estate or a mortgage note or anything, a small business, that you're getting paid dividends out of, that
Mhm.
generates income for you, and you're still an owner. And so that's what I love. That's what I love. This is more takes some different skills and a little more involved, but we can get more into that. But what I always want to teach people about is the importance of having multiple streams of income. It's so important for your financial security in your life, having that no matter what you do. And it's something that I've pursued, and I love sharing that message.
So I'm in the middle of The Snowball, which is Warren Buffett's biography. And I was interested in it because knowing more about the man helps you to understand how he was able to generate his success. You have generated a lot of success in terms of the things that you've built entrepreneurially and invest on the investment side and how you're teaching people to do that. So let's dive into your story so we can have a little bit of better of understanding about the foundation that kind of led you to where you are.
Yeah.
Why don't you share with us a little bit about your background? Where were you born? And what was it like for a young Fred growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. Little bit about my background, Frederick. I had this very long, successful career. I was working as a computer engineer, and I
Hmm.
loved it. I loved it so much. I spent many years working at technology startup companies, and was an exciting time. Was involved in firsthand in watching the internet come to life, come to the world. And one thing that happened to me was that I watched my entire industry get turned completely upside down from the bursting of the dot-com bubble.
Hmm.
And that was immediately followed by the September 11th terrorist attacks.
Hmm. That's
If you
right.
can remember back then, right? And so I realized that I was way too dependent on the income for my job, because it was a job that I loved, but there were so many circumstances that were completely outside of my control.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I learned that no matter how talented of an engineer I was or how valuable of an employee I was, if things were not going well at the company or in the industry, I could quickly lose my job through no fault of my own. And
Hmm.
so, with that, I came to the realization that I wanted to have other sources of income so that I wouldn't be dependent solely on that paycheck from my job. And with that, I turned to investing.
So,
And I kept working as an
mhm.
engineer, but I realized now I had to have another focus as well.
So I'm curious because a lot of people may be in a similar position. No, especially in the last 6 months or so, we've seen a wave of tech layoffs and things of
Yeah.
that nature. So a lot of people are having to come to that realization the hard way, right?
Yeah.
Um, so first of
Absolutely.
all, if you were I want to ask two questions. One, if you were advising people, what would you advise them to do with this opportunity that a layoff has created? And secondly, what was it about your core skill set that allowed you to say, I'm going to take this knowledge or whatever to be able to pivot into this other area, allowing me to be successful? And you may only realize this in hindsight, but if you could think of it now, what was it that allowed you to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I definitely only realized it in hindsight.
Mhm.
But at the time, what I saw around me and my experience in life, I saw people around me build massive wealth through
Mm.
owning real estate. And I said, this is something that anyone can do. It doesn't matter what your background is. And I saw firsthand people that were did not come from means, people that were blue collar workers, salt of the earth type of person, built a massive wealth through owning real estate and holding it long term. And so I said, this looks like something I really want to explore.
Hmm.
Now, looking at it in hindsight, to answer the other part of your question, the skills that I developed from the mindset of an engineer, the analysis, the risk management, all of that totally gave me a huge advantage in investing because these are skills I use every day, looking at a
Hmm.
deal, analyzing it, seeing how it's going to work, seeing how the different pieces work together, and also building systems, which in technology, everything's systems. But in investing, in business in general,
Hmm.
building systems is very important, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Documenting your process, creating a process so that you maybe can hand off to someone else to do and help you scale and grow. All of this building systems, some of the most successful businesses out there, especially in franchise scenarios, it's all about systems and processes. So these are some of the skills that I had inherently as an engineer that really have served me well uh,
Hmm.
throughout investing.
So, but what if somebody's not an engineer, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they say, "Well, I don't have that level of training or sophistication." So, how is it that you were seeing these salt of the earth, regular people turn to real estate or just investing in general, right? But I know you specifically were
Yeah,
talking about real estate. What is the mindset they need to have, or what's the very first step that they would need to take to be able to make that foray into real estate?
there's a couple things that, and these are skills anyone can learn, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
You don't have to be an engineer for sure. That's just the world I came from.
Mhm.
The skills of building relationships, super
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
Approaching investing, another one is approaching investing with a long-term approach.
Mhm.
Long term. I'm talking like 10 or 20 years, like that.
Mhm.
When you go into it with that expectation, you're going to do really well. You're going to
Mhm.
maybe experience a downturn and be able to pivot and continue on and then do
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
Because in investing in all asset classes, there are cycles. There are
Right.
cycles in real estate. There are cycles in the stock market. There are cycles in our economy,
Mhm.
especially in the tech economy, like we were just mentioning. You go through several of them, absolutely, and downturns. And so being able to weather those storms, that's a skill. That's a skill. But and building relationships, super important. No
Mhm.
matter what kind of work you do, what business you're in, I feel that getting good at building relationships is one of the best things that you can do. It takes work and it takes practice. For some
Mhm.
people, it comes easy. I certainly had to work at it a lot.
Mhm.
But think of this, Frederick,
Mhm.
that if you had a misfortune, if you lost everything you had, all your
Mhm.
resources, all your money, everything, and you had to start over
Mhm.
and build back up again, well, what are you left with? It's really
Mhm.
two things: the skills and knowledge that you've developed and the relationships that you've had. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything
Right.
else, all your money, all your physical things, you can lose them. They can be wiped out in an earthquake or taken away from you in some way, but you can always build back up. And we hear so many stories of successful entrepreneurs, successful people that lost it all and then
Hmm.
turned around and started over and built it back up again over and over again. We hear those stories so much. And so it's the relationships, it's the people that are around you that you can call, and they'll be there for you and you'll be there for them. And having
Hmm.
relationships like that, there is not a monetary value you can place on that, but the value is huge.
Well, that's a really, really great point. I remember I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember which one it was now, but somebody mentioned that same idea. So I think it really highlights the wisdom in that. Like, if if you lost all of your money or you got into a really tough spot, you know, who could you call, right? If you and especially when you talk about building relationships with people that are also successful, right? Because if all your friends are broke, then it's very difficult for them to be able to help you. But if
Oh,
you know people and have built relationships with people that have means, access, their own network, things, then you now have those things in place. I'm curious about this, right? So I want to kind of go back a little bit because you've made a pivot into entrepreneurship, but that was not initially your background. Or was it? Did you have when you were growing up? Was there exposure to entrepreneurship or something of that nature that made you feel more confident to start branching out, or was this something that just kind of evolved as part of your analytical engineering mind?
yeah, it's interesting you asked that. I definitely had a spark of entrepreneurship. Um, I'll share a little story with you. When I was probably about 11 or 12 years old, I decided I wanted to start my own business. And
Mhm.
so I would buy cartons of candy bars and candy, and I would sell it in school. And it was the best feeling making my own money. I made a lot of money, right?
Mm.
Imagine a kid of that age having a couple $100 of capital that built up from nothing.
Mhm.
And it was the best feeling in the world. And I started getting in trouble in school, and the principal called my parents, and there was all of these issues about it at school. And so finally, my parents said to me, "Look, we support what you're doing. We love that you want to be an entrepreneur, but you can't keep doing this. It's causing a lot of problems at school." But that was my first taste of having my own business and not having to answer to anyone. I love that. Now, in parallel with that, the way I grew up, the lessons from my parents, from people around me, it was always like this: go study hard in school so that you can get good grades and get a good job and have a good, safe, secure job, right? That whole narrative, I grew up with that.
Mhm.
And once I got out on my own in the working world, it didn't take long for me to realize that that was that narrative was very false.
Mhm.
Very false. And
What was the first time that you encountered that and realized, oh, wait a minute, you guys were way off base on this lesson you've been trying to teach me?
the big turning point for me was this. I I eventually, with my investing, started making enough money to cover all my living expenses
Mhm.
after a number of years. So I realized my investment income was enough to cover all my living expenses. And I realized that from that day forward, that I was now going to be working as an engineer because I wanted to and not
Mhm.
because I had to. And that was a
Mhm.
really powerful moment for me, realizing that. And eventually, sometime later, I left the engineering world, and always remember this. My mom's the best mom in the world, right? Love her so much. She always means well, but she was so worried about me being in my own business, not
Mhm.
working anymore.
Mhm.
And I, we had this conversation so many times. I kept saying, please don't worry, I'm fine, everything will be fine. I It was difficult for her to grasp that,
Mhm.
for sure, and I accepted that's how our conversations went for a while. I kept reassuring her in a loving way that everything was going to be okay. But
Mhm.
I realized that in hindsight, looking back, that was the way I grew up. It was the way I
Mhm.
grew up. That if you were between jobs, there was a lot of pressure, and you had to scramble and find something else. All of that.
Yeah.
So that's something that was part of what was ingrained into me that I had to grow out of.
Mhm. How how long would you say that it took you to grow out of that mindset? And then I want to follow up with a question on that because I'm curious about the levels of growth that you've had to go through. But how long did it initially take you from the point at which you decided to pivot or start investing to the point where you realized, oh, I can't rely on this traditional, conventional method of thinking around making money and things of that nature?
It took a number of years to get past a lot of these fears. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs that are transitioning go through this. You start to look at, how much money do I need to make for my business to cover everything, right? You start planning and analyzing, um, and getting over some of those fears. But the reality is, it's never perfect. It's going to
Mm,
get messy.
mm,
There may be days where your bank account gets lower than you're comfortable with. All of that happens.
mhm,
But if you put yourself around the right people, the people that are going to support you, that you can
mhm,
bounce questions off of each other and give advice to each other, that's so powerful, so important. If you're
mhm,
surrounding yourself with other people that are successful entrepreneurs, you're going to learn from them, and you
mhm,
will all support each other and uplift and up level each other. And so that is the huge influence on anyone's mindset. So I think that's one of the most important things, is take a look at the people around you and make sure that you're spending time with people that are already at the place where you want to get to. That's going to help you more than anything else.
yeah, the power of finding a tribe and community of like-minded people, successful people. Yeah, that's really empowering. That's really
Yeah,
powerful.
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the big concepts that Napoleon Hill teaches in his book Think and Grow Rich, that mastermind. And
Hmm.
he talks about so many different examples of that, but it's really the tribe, like you said. Where is that right tribe? And get around successful people, because you're going to learn so much, and it's going to have a major impact on your growth.
And as you have become more and more successful with investments and built more and more wealth, what are some of these shifts that you had to make in terms of your mindset? For instance, let me ask you this question: what was a belief? Let's say you started making money from the investments. You're living well, right? And then you start realizing, oh, I'm making a significant amount of money now. But what was a belief that you had that you realized you had to make a shift in to be able to level up to the next level? Can you think of a time or a story that kind of illustrates that shift that you had to make?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Here's a story I'll share. Um, when I as I've been my main business focus is mortgage note investing, something I've been doing for many, many years. It's a
Mhm.
niche area of real estate investing. And what happened was I started to make a lot of progress and growth with that, to the point where I was focusing more and more of my time and energy on note investing. And I was starting to be invited to speak at conferences and investor conferences and events and presenting. And I started getting people coming up to me, saying, "Hey, Fred, I love what you're doing with this note investing. You seem to be doing really well with it, but it looks complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of pitfalls. And so, is there any way that I could give you money to invest for me, or I could put money with you?" And so for many years, I turned that down. I said, "No, I don't want to have that responsibility. There's all this
Mm.
compliance stuff and it's complicated. And I didn't want the responsibility of handling someone else's capital. I was comfortable only working with my own. But this kept
Mm.
coming up for years and years and years. And so finally, I said, let me take another look at this. And I decided, okay, if I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this the proper way. And so what did I do? I got the right people around me. I started working with a compliance attorney and with my CPA, my some of my closest advisors. And so we worked on this to I said, if I'm going to accept anyone's money, I'm going to do it the right way and set up
Mm.
a formal investment fund. And so it took a long time working through all the compliance stuff and the meetings with the CPA and the attorneys. But then finally we got it done, and I was able to have set up my first investment fund. And that was a big shift for me, was going from working with my own capital to working with other people's capital, because it's a huge responsibility. And so that took a lot of internal work, as well as getting the right people around me so that I would go through this process in the right way.
Can I
And
pull on that thread for a second,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that that's not um that's actually not a little thing, because some people never actually get to doing that internal work that allows them to think and dream bigger. Like, you started a fund, right? And so when people hear that, when they hear hedge fund manager or investment fund manager, they're thinking, oh, this is this guy who has a building in New York and he's on the 105th floor, and he's got 100 people working for him, and he's got hundreds of millions of dollars, and maybe his daddy had money before him, right? It seems for very far off. You internally had to go into a place and do some shifting around in terms of your mindset. I'm really curious. Like, what was the thinking beforehand, and what was the process like of unraveling that and saying, "Hey, I can do this."
yeah. There was so much. The thinking beforehand was that I didn't want any part of it. I don't want the responsibility, the headaches, all the compliance stuff. I mean, there's a lot.
Hmm.
But it's like anything else. What you're not familiar with seems like it's so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that process is first of all, like anything else, get educated, learn, learn from people that are already at a place where you want to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take advice from people that have no experience in the top specific topic, for sure. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
worst people to to receive advice from. I had to learn to say thank you, but no, thank you. You're not doing what I'm seeking to do, and so
Mm.
your opinion, uh, it's not going to carry much weight for me. That's what
Right.
I would say to myself, and then I would highly value the opinion of those that already were doing what I wanted to do. That's huge. That is huge. Other areas of my mindset are looking at looking at my results. Sometimes you have to stop and turn around and look back, see where you started from, see how
Hmm.
far you've gone,
Mm. Right.
see how far you've gone, see all the obstacles you've overcome, all the challenges you had to work through.
Yeah.
And that helps to put things in perspective. But absolutely, like you said, all kinds of different fears come up, and you have to get your mindset in the right place. And it doesn't matter if you're starting an investment fund or going out on your own as an entrepreneur, starting a business, taking on some risk,
Hmm.
or other things like writing a book or starting a podcast, right? It's going to be a little scary. There's going to be some unknown, but you start, you take the first step, you get some education, surround yourself with the right people, and that's going to keep you moving forward in the right track. And another thing is get clear on what you want and your why.
Mm.
If you have a strong why, a strong sense of purpose, that's going to carry you forward on those dark days when things
Mm.
seem like they're falling apart, and it will keep you from quitting, keep you from giving up. If you have a strong purpose, that's going to guide you forward. That's going to keep you take the next step up the staircase when it's so foggy you can't see 2 inches in front of your face, because
Mm.
sometimes it gets like that and it's scary. Having that strong sense of purpose really makes a difference.
That's really, really great advice. I think that's very, very wise. Thanks for sharing that, Fred. Um, I want to dive into the actual meat and bones of what you've been talking about, right? Um, you've written a couple of books. Your latest book is the Little Green Book of Note Investing. So, first of all, explain it to me like I'm in the fifth grade. What is note investing, and how does it how does it differ from traditional real estate investing, if it does?
Yeah.
And why is it so advantageous? Why did you choose this area to focus on?
No, great questions. So let's start with what is note investing. Note investing is investing in the debt side of real estate transactions. And so let's talk about it from a real estate perspective. A lot of people know about investing in real estate. You can
Mhm.
invest in houses, in commercial properties, in apartment buildings, even vacation properties, right? Getting a property, setting it up as a vacation rental, putting it up on Airbnb, all of that. All
Mhm.
of these different strategies, but one niche area that people don't talk about is investing in the paper. And what that is investing in the notes and mortgages which are associated with all of those properties.
Mhm.
And what I found is that it's really an interesting part of the real estate business, but a lot of real estate investors, they don't pay much attention to it. And for most people, when they think of a note and a mortgage, they think about being the borrower and not as being the lender. But if you're a note investor, this allows you to step across the aisle and become the bank. And you can transition from being the one making the monthly payments to being the one receiving those monthly payments. And so what
Hmm.
this does is it's a great way to increase the predictability of your cash flow.
Mhm.
What you're doing is you're outlaying your capital, you're buying a debt instrument that's secured by something with tangible value, and then you're
Mhm.
receiving the monthly payments every month. And that's in a nutshell what note investing is all about. And what what I liked most about it was that a couple of characteristics of note investing. The first one is that you can buy notes at a discount. In other words, you can buy them for less than the amount owed. The second one is that you can earn a nice rate of return. And the third one is that you're investing in something that's backed by an by something with tangible value. You have an asset, it's backed by real estate, and so that gives you downside protection and
Mhm. But you can
stability.
always sell the property if you needed to, or reclaim the property as a way.
Yeah.
So that's
Banks figured this out long, long ago.
right.
They'd rather be in the business of lending money and being a lien holder instead of owning the property, and that's what they do.
Mm. So let's walk through the process then. Let's say that I want to, well, first of all, how much money, how much capital do you need to be able to start investing in this, you know? And then let's talk about what that process actually looks like. If I want to
Yeah,
get started today or tomorrow.
yeah, absolutely. So how much do you need? There is no limit.
Hmm.
In other words, I'll give you some ideas. Uh, I've bought notes with a very small balance that had a $5,000 or $6,000 principal balance. But the numbers go all the way up. There's notes that are $50,000 loan balance, $500,000 loan balance, $1 million, all and everything in between. And so
Hmm.
there's no limit either way. And if you're looking at investing in a note fund, how much do you need for those? Those vary as well. There's many good note funds out there. Some they all have a minimum in general. Some have a minimum of $25,000 to invest. Others have a 50,000 or 100,000, and there's no right or wrong answer. It comes down to looking at some different options and seeing what is right for you as an investor. But
Mhm.
to invest, to get started in note investing, you can do that by either buying notes individually or by investing in a note fund that is professionally managed. And so that gives you some different ways to do that.
So let's talk about the process itself then.
Yeah.
What does that really look like when you say, "Hey, I've identified a deal or a property that I want to get in on"?
Hmm.
Um, what does that actually look like, step by step?
Yeah, step by step. There's a couple things, and I talk a lot about this in my book about how to perform due diligence on a note and analyze it. But it comes down to a couple of factors. You want to look at the real estate, the collateral that's securing the note. What's the value of the property and the local real estate market where it is? And by the
Mhm.
way, we invest in notes all across the U.S. And so this is not location dependent at all. Can invest in all 50 states, anywhere. So you look at the local real estate market, at the property value, the quality of the collateral. In addition to that, you want to look at the borrower to see what's the track record, the borrower's credit history, the same way that a bank would underwrite a borrower that's taking out a new mortgage. And next, most important is looking at the track record and history, the payment history, and all this information is provided by the seller of the note to you, so you have
Mhm.
an opportunity to look at that and analyze it. And my final point that I feel often gets overlooked is looking at and analyzing who is the seller of the note. This is so important. You have to do your due diligence on the counterparty in the transaction. Are they reputable? Do they have a good track record? What's their reputation in the industry? For those of us in the investing industry, it's a small world. We know we all know each other, and so if someone has a bad reputation, word gets around pretty quick. But it's not hard for anyone to look. You can look if someone has a history of lawsuits. Lawsuits are in the public record. You can look at court records and see all of this. And
Mhm.
Frederick, you know, a lot of this also goes for any business transaction, any business deal that you're going to do. You
Mhm.
have to do due diligence on your counterparty. Are you
Right.
doing business with someone that's reputable? Are you
Mhm.
entering into a partnership with someone that has a not a good past?
Mhm.
Um, this is so important because if things go well in your business, well, then that's great. But how is the other person going to act and behave when things don't go well?
Right.
This
Right.
often does not get looked at, right? Is the other person going to bail out and leave you high and dry? Is that their track record? You want to know that before you get involved in a business relationship with anyone. I mean, this is not just for note investing, but I feel that that's something that I can't emphasize enough. And I've talked to so many investors, and
Mhm.
sometimes people come with stories about a bad deal they've gotten into. And the sad thing is that when I hear this, a lot of these times, if the person would have spent 10 or 15 minutes on Google looking up the other person before they went into the transaction, they might have had second thoughts or started to ask some more questions before they went ahead. Right. That's all I want to say. I don't want to talk bad about anyone ever, but
Right.
this is
Right.
on you. Like you got to look carefully at the other person. You can run background checks on people. You can do there's a lot at your disposal, but Google's available to everyone. So at a minimum, at least do that, if nothing else.
That's a really great point. That you want to do the due diligence, and what I find is that a lot of people are. It's the I don't want to call it laziness, but I think there is laziness is part of it, right? But there is a reluctance to do the hard work. People want to make it as easy as possible. Therefore, they just kind of throw a blind eye to doing all the due diligence that they should. But what you're saying is that it's and almost what I hear you saying is that it's almost better not to do a bad deal
Oh, yeah,
than to do a good deal. Will that be accurate?
absolutely. Oh,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, absolutely. When you get into a bad deal, that's going to suck up so much of your energy and
Mhm.
headaches and focus and all of that. Not even counting the money, the monetary loss, but what
Right.
about the energetic drain it causes on you?
Mhm.
Because all of your attention is now going to be focused on that. And that can be so detrimental because at the same time, you're running a business, you have other deals, you have other, maybe you have employees you're working with, other people are depending on you.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that's something that I encourage, avoid that at all costs. And a lot of times you get into a bad deal, uh, look to minimize your losses and get out quickly. Sometimes you have to pay the other person to go away, whatever it takes. There's some non-monetary uh, value to
Mhm.
that can't be overlooked. If you're in a partnership that's not going well, see what you have to do to get out in a clean, swift way.
Mm. Do you have stories, maybe one or two of your own bad deals that you overlooked something in your own due diligence, or have you kind of been able to avoid that for the most part in your career?
Yeah, I mean, things come up all the time, especially in what we do. And um, like in my business, we might buy a package. We buy loans in packages. So we might
Mm,
buy a package of 10 or 20 loans.
mhm,
And let's say one or two of them, there's a problem.
mm,
Well, we're making our money and our profits from the pool of 19 loans, but all of the time and efforts going into resolving one of those that didn't go well.
right, right.
And that's how it is. And so um, what can you do? You can hire the right people, hire the right vendors to help you support it. You can get it off your plate that way.
Mhm,
Sometimes you can sell that bad deal out and recoup your money, make nothing, or maybe even take a loss. Uh,
mm,
and there could be another investor that will do well with that, and that's fine, great.
mhm.
But now you can focus. You focus on the other areas of your business. That
That
this is yeah, this is something not to be overlooked. It's just like if you have a small business with 5 employees and one of
mhm,
them is not working out, like that, they have a bad mindset, bad attitude, that will quickly suck so much energy out of everyone else on the team and
mm,
cause problems for you
yeah,
and
yeah,
overall morale, right? What does that do? Like I've seen and experienced all of these scenarios before.
mhm,
And on a personal note, some of the best things that I've done was sense that whether it was a client that wanted to do business with me or a transaction I was about to enter into, sometimes the best thing you can do is give the money back and say, look, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. Give the money back
mhm,
and walk away, shake hands, walk away, and everyone goes on their own journey and that's it. Sometimes it's the best thing you can do if you get a sense where there's something off, something wrong, and that's your intuition talking to you.
mhm.
Listen to that. Get good at listening to that because I found that it's usually right.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. It's funny, somebody, if you're on Facebook, make sure you let StreamYard use your name and give her permission so we can share your name so I can call you by name because people are asking some questions about this investing in here. They're asking this question to me. Um, I will answer it only as a way of allowing you to answer the question as well. So the question is, did oh wait, we're both Freds. I forgot. So
I see the question popped up here. Did I
yes, there we
experience
go.
any low points in your investing? Absolutely.
And how did you
Many.
recover from that? Yeah.
Yeah. So many. So here's an example. I started investing in real estate in the early 2000s, and
Hmm.
it was on an upswing until 2008. Remember that? And so what
Yeah.
happened there? We had this massive shift. Property values dropped.
Right.
Um, the economy was in shambles. And so and it was not easy to get financing either. All of these problems happened. So what did I do? I started to realize that what could I change? because when things aren't going your way, there's two things you can control, is how you feel and how you
Mm,
respond to that. What do you do next? Everything
mm,
else you can't control. You can't control the economy. You can't control the president. You can't control which party's elected to the government, all of this stuff. So don't worry
mm,
about any of that. People get so fixated. You can control what you do.
mhm,
So what did I do? Those were scary times. I started to realize that in the rental portfolio, that the properties that were nicer, I was getting really great tenants. It didn't matter if the property value dropped by 10, 20, or 30%. People still
mhm,
wanted to live there. People still wanted to pay rent.
mhm,
And I was delivering a superb product to the marketplace. And you always get rewarded when you do that. So what I started doing, Frederick, was I started upgrading all of all the rental portfolio, putting
mm,
in nicer kitchens. When a property would go vacant, we would upgrade it, put in a nicer bathroom, a nicer kitchen. Instead of putting uh Formica countertops, spend a little more money and put in granite and
mhm,
make the kitchen the showpiece of the whole property. It didn't
mm,
cost a lot, right? In an apartment, in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, the extra cost, maybe it was an extra 500, an extra $1,000. If you're
mm,
replacing the countertop anyway, put in granite, a little more, it looked beautiful. And then I
mm,
was getting better tenants, and then they were taking better care of the property. So it was
mhm,
all good. And so for a while, I was just putting all the profit I was making, I was putting it back into the property, reinvesting that.
mhm,
And that has done really well. Um, and so this is an example, like reinvesting into your business, into um, different tools, different assets for any business that you have. Training, investing in training. What are new
mhm,
skills that you can learn, right? If there's a downturn or a slow time, maybe you have a cyclical business. Well, during the
mhm,
slow times, are there any new skills that you can pick up?
mhm.
Newer cutting edge things that you can incorporate into your business to come out ahead.
Right, right.
Always great things to look at during low points in what you're doing, whatever it is. I love the idea of investing in yourself, investing in skills, investing in tools and technology. If you can do that, don't look at how much money you're spending. Look at how long will it take to recoup your
Mhm,
investment.
mhm,
Will this pay for itself over
mhm.
a time frame? That's important.
Right,
That's important
right.
because in the end, you're going to come out so much further ahead.
I think that's really, really great advice. And I think foundational wisdom for everyone. Like you said, there's always going to be cycles. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about recession and everything has come from the pandemic on down. So I think that's really great wisdom for entrepreneurs to be looking at how they can make those investments. I was going to ask you about your other book as well, The 13 Steps to Riches. And I wanted you to just share one of those steps, one of those lessons that you shared in that book. Interestingly enough, you co-authored that book with one of the former guests of this show, which is Steve Sims. And so um, I'm sure that that was a great experience. What's one of the keys to one of the steps to riches that you would like
Yeah.
to share with the entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Let's thank you for asking. The 13 Steps to Riches is book series where
Mm.
we explore, we do a deep dive into Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so in Think and Grow Rich, in the original book from 1937, Napoleon Hill outlines the 13 principles to how to get rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done in this book series is each volume is dedicated to a specific principle. We have faith and autosuggestion and decision, mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
subconscious mind, all of that. And for me, it's been a great deep dive because you go back, you revisit that work. It was a really influential book for me. I highly recommend everyone read it, Think and Grow Rich, and
Mm-hmm.
read it with the idea that rich does not always mean only mean monetary, the monetary sense, because you
Mm-hmm.
can be rich in family, you can be rich in health, in relationships, in friendships,
Mm.
in fact, so much. And these principles really are impactful. It gives you the right way to develop your mindset to make progress and get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And one that was very impactful is mastermind.
Mm.
That's one of the principles, is the mastermind. And
Mm-hmm.
so I recommend everyone join a mastermind, find a group of like-minded individuals where you go to meet and share and uplift and up level each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's powerful because relationships come out of that. Your next business partner you may meet there. Join these groups, get around like-minded individuals. And as I mentioned earlier, get around people that are already at that higher level where you're seeking to go. And so that's definitely one of my favorites in the book.
Well, Fred, I think that's amazing advice. Not least of all because we have several masterminds that we are building here with the podcast as well. But also because you shared so much wisdom with us. I think there's been a lot of subtle gems that you've dropped that people may need to go back and listen to this over and over again, because you talked a lot about wealth building principles, wealth building mindset, community, and different types of wealth as well. So with that being said, how can people learn more about you if they want to give you money to invest for them, or if they want to just learn more about how they can do what you're doing or work with you in some way? What's the best way for people to be able to connect with you?
Well, thank you, Fred. I appreciate that. I love building relationships and networking. And so I always look forward to meeting people. And the best way to get in touch with me is visit my website, which is fredmoskowitz.com. And if you prefer an easier spelling, you can go to giftfromfred.com, and that will take you right to my website. You can learn about my book and connect with me there. Always love talking to folks, building relationships. I think it's one of the most important things that we can do, no matter what business we're in. And if you prefer to use your mobile device, you can text the word money to the phone number 215-461-4433.
And I'll put that in chat right now. Text money to, what's the number?
215
215
461
461
4433.
433. Perfect. Awesome. Fred, it's been an honor to have you here as a guest. I want to thank everybody who stopped by for a second, a minute, dropped a comment. whatever the case may be. If you've been watching this the whole time, thanks for spending your afternoon with us, your lunch, your power lunch with us. And go text Fred, go get a copy of his books. It'll definitely bless you, definitely inform and empower you on your journey, whether it's an entrepreneur or just an investor, whatever the case may be. You got some people that are really grateful in the comments below. Fred is also a member of the 7-Figure Circle $1 Million Mastermind Facebook group. So if you are watching this over there, drop a comment and let him know what you thought about his interview as well. And for everyone else, make sure that you are liking us, subscribing to us on YouTube. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, send us a message as well. We love to hear from all of our listeners and know what you're thinking about what we're building over here. Hopefully this has been valuable for you. My name is Frederick Douglass Bussey. For Fred Moskowitz, our guest today, ever forward.
Thank you.